Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Charles Payne in for Eric Bolling. It was a big day at the United Nations as the Palestinian National Authority President Mahmoud Abbas delivered his application for Palestinian statehood. That was in front of the General Assembly. Mr. Abbas made this.
We are the last people to remain under occupation. Will the world allow Israel to occupy us forever? And will it allow Israel to remain a state above the law?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, had another take on the situation.
President Abbas just said on this podium that the Palestinians are armed only with their hopes and dreams. Yep. Hopes, dreams, and 10,000 missiles and Grad rockets supplied by Iran, not to mention the river of lethal weapons now flowing into Gaza from the Sinai.
Both sides came out swinging, so who was the most effective? Joining me now are Texas Representative Louie Gohmert and Louisiana Representative Jeff Landry. Congressman, what are your feelings about the Palestinian application?
Well, I tell you, it is outrageous that anybody would be given time in the UN to come in and ask to be recognized taking land from another sovereign state when they still refuse to acknowledge Israel's right to even exist. I mean, anywhere else in the country, you would never even allow such a thing. So going back from my judge days where the law in states, in federal court, if you encourage, even encourage aid abet, then you're as guilty as the principal in committing a criminal act. If we encourage by continuing to pay our dues and the UN host this facility when they're facilitating a group that wants to see hopes and dreams of Israel ending, then we're as guilty as anybody in trying to end Israel. I think we got to get out.
Representative Landry, I don't know that a lot of people watching would think, you know, because of this situation, we should abandon the United Nations. Maybe perhaps it's a place to resolve situations like this. But this application was, we knew well in advance it was going to happen. The Palestinians knew what the consequences would be, and yet they still did that. What does that message, what does that really say about this situation?
Well, I think it was disingenuous of the Palestinians to come and offer an application when there's so many internal strifes within themselves. We don't even have boundaries defined. You know, how do you recognize a country without clear and concise boundaries out there? On top of that, you know, we're up here fighting fiscal matters up here. A number of the basic services that the Palestinians enjoy are paid for and supported by the Israelis. So how, even if they became a state, would they support themselves? I mean, these are all things that need to be addressed way before we even get to the point where they can make that application.
And nevertheless,
Charles,
go ahead, sir.
Charles, I understand that, you know, you're saying most people say, oh, this isn't enough basis to get out. Unless we made it clear, and this administration could have nipped this in the bud by letting the UN know we're dead serious about this. If you force an avowed enemy who still will not acknowledge Israel's right to exist, still has dreams of them not existing, you force that issue, we're pulling out of the UN. And if they had understood that we were serious, you would never have seen this happen today.
Does it boil down to that, though, for you, Representative Gohmert, that if they can acknowledge that Israel does indeed have a right to exist, then that could be the beginning of a process that ultimately gives them statehood?
Charles, Netanyahu has said that himself. He said it over here in the House floor. He said that's what starts the peace process. Israel has a right to exist. We'll meet you anywhere. We'll work this out, but you've got to start with that. They're still not willing to do that.
And Charles, the problem that we have here today is that the administration has given double signals. It's they were for it before, and then now they're against it. You know, the problem here.
That's right.
Again, it's, you know, we have to be concise and consistent in our message in this country to other foreign countries, and that is the problem we find ourselves in when you say one thing that our words have actions out there.
Well,
and today, you know.
I got to tell you, judging from the way the president has handled this so far this year, almost everyone on any side of this argument would say that he's talked out of both sides of his mouth, and that has led to a lot of confusion. Congressman, thank you both of you very much.
We got to learn to quit helping our enemies and hurting our friends.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.